So President Trump gave a primetime address to the nation from the Oval Office yesterday. And this is what he said. He said, "Tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border. Every day, Customs and Border Patrol agents encounter thousands of illegal immigrants trying to enter our country. We are out of space to hold them and have no way to promptly return them back to their country. America proudly welcomes millions of lawful immigrants who enrich our society and contribute to our nation, but all Americans are hurt by uncontrolled illegal immigration. It strains public resources and drives down jobs and wages. Among those hardest hit are African Americans and Hispanic Americans." And then he goes on and he says, this is the part I really wanted to kind of look at here today. "Some have suggested a barrier is immoral. Then why do wealthy politicians build walls, fences, and gates around their homes? They don't build walls because they hate people on the outside, but because they love the people on the inside. The only thing that is immoral is for the politicians to do nothing and continue to allow more innocent people to be horribly victimized." So one thought that really hit me there was that, people do say that the border wall is immoral, it's racist, it's because we hate people. He perfectly said it here. It's not, we don't build walls, whether it's around a house or some place where you don't want people coming in that shouldn't be there because you hate the people. You're doing it to protect the people inside.
Right. That was one of the greatest points, I think, of the whole speech was that right there.
Right. And this is something that the liberals don't understand. They just think it's hateful, it's mean.
But if you go back and look at some of these liberals, a few years ago, they were all for putting up a wall.
Right.
I know.
And now they've changed their mind because of Trump.
Only because they're
Because
disliked
he's not a
Trump.
politician and doesn't go along with their little agendas.
Right. And this is...
It's infuriating.
It is. It's so childish. So this was the response from, let me just make sure I got the right one. Whoops. This is the response from Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi were standing next to each other, and Chuck's kind of looking like this. And they looked like they were trying to be Donald Trump's parents or something, punishing him for being a very bad boy, And so he said, so this is what Chuck Schumer said. "My fellow Americans, there is no challenge so great that our nation cannot rise to meet it. We can reopen the government and continue to work through disagreements about policy. We can secure our border without an expensive, ineffective wall. And we can welcome legal immigrants and refugees without compromising safety and security." Which we all know is a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
They really don't want any security, but they want to say they're for security so people won't, so they won't get a bad image of themselves. The symbol, now check this out, this is really why I wanted to come here. The symbol of America should be the Statue of Liberty, not a 30-foot wall. And then he goes on. That one probably does resonate with people, and they probably, this could be somebody who just doesn't know any better.
Right.
They think, well, that's a good point.
Right.
A wall isn't as welcoming. It's saying stay out, and the Statue of Liberty is saying come on in. But I would say this. So if the Statue of Liberty is if you're a Christian and you thought, well, yeah, Chuck Schumer made a very good point there. We don't want people to think of America as this enclosed area with a wall, 30-foot wall. Well, God gives us a picture of New Jerusalem with a wall that's actually 300 feet tall, approximately 300 feet tall, 144 cubits. And that's the symbol of the place we want to be in.
Right.
That's where we want to go.
Right.
So what would be wrong with a wall? The reason why what's nice about it is you look at a place with a wall like that. If it's a welcoming city, it's a place where people want to be. Now, if it was the Soviet Union or something, you wouldn't want to be in that wall.
Right. Those are walls to keep people in.
Yeah.
That's not.
People in.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah. These walls are to keep the bad people out. And New Jerusalem, we look at that and we see the high walls. We don't look at it as bad. We look at it as I want to be in there because it's a safe and secure place. And that's the whole purpose of this wall that President Donald Trump wants built. And ultimately, it's we the people who want it built, the patriots of America, because we want our country to be safe. We don't want all these, we don't want our culture destroyed. We don't want criminals in here. And it's not just about criminals. I know Donald Trump brings that up a lot, and it's good that he does because you lose some very precious lives because of it. But for me, it's more of killing our culture, poisoning our culture.
Yeah.
With other, because if you don't come in here and want to assimilate into our culture, but you want to jump the wall, come in here illegally, and not show any respect for our laws or our culture, then you're very dangerous to our culture. And
Yeah. And then just drain our system from welfare. The one thing that I wish he would have said, I don't even think he mentioned it. He has in the past, but on this particular thing, for me, all that stuff I agree with, what you just were saying. But to me, it's the terrorists and the Muslims that want to come in and destroy us, like literally kill us and blow us up. That is coming across that border as well.
Right.
So it's not just bad guys selling drugs or doing bad things. It's a perfect avenue for Muslim extremists, terrorists, to get their dirty nuke in or get whatever they want in.
Right.
It's happening. I don't know the number, but I just heard a Border Patrol agent speaking of there's a certain number of these, not Mexicans, not Latinos, but like Muslim people that are using these coyotes and Mexicans to help them get across the border with, whether it's a dirty nuke, who knows? But when that happens, then what is Chuck Schumer going to say?
Right. See,
Oops.
The enemy can use it as like a Trojan horse.
Absolutely.
Against America.
Yeah.
Right.
Have the immigration laws changed? Or are they still the same as they were?
They changed big time. I know there's the Immigration Act of 1960 something.
Okay, because when I was born in Sweden. My parents came here in 1950. They needed a sponsor, my uncle, who was already in the United States, to even come here.
Yeah.
And then they had to go through a lot of education, because I was only like 2, but I remember being 5, 6 years old and listening to my parents reciting, "We the people of the United States." Yeah. So they were still learning. It took years to become citizens. It wasn't just,
Yeah, they were acclimating to our culture.
Right.
Assimilating. And
assimilating, yeah, that's a better word.
That's the biblical way. I mean, if you want to get into the kingdom of God, New Jerusalem, I'll read a couple of these verses here in a second about it. The only way into those gates is to assimilate. And that's how America should be. If you want to come here, fine. We can let a certain amount of people come in here and we'll agree upon that number. But they have to assimilate into our culture. Right. And yeah, that's a great example that you brought up, is that used to be that way. But anyways, New Jerusalem, you're talking about, and they say it's immoral for a wall. Well, God has a wall around New Jerusalem, and it's obviously not immoral because it's there to protect the culture of God's kingdom. And that's really why we want a wall around our country, is because our nation was founded upon Christianity. Our culture was built upon, the freedoms and the truths and the laws of God in the Bible. And now when we just let anybody come in without that assimilation, it takes that all away. Revelation 21 verse 12 says, "And had a wall," talking about New Jerusalem, "great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and the names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel." So it had gates, it had ports of entry. On the east 3 gates, and on the north 3 gates, and on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. Okay, yeah, forgot to read that. It was New Jerusalem, but you guys know that. So a wall great and high. Nothing wrong with a great wall as far as optics are concerned if you really want to be in that place. So Chuck Schumer's argument is definitely not a biblical argument. I could care less really about the Statue of Liberty. The wall is more biblical symbol than the Statue of Liberty. I don't see anything about the Statue of Liberty in the Bible. In fact, there are some questions about the pagan symbology there, and stuff like that. But Ezekiel 22 verse 30 is interesting. This, if you read this whole chapter, it talks a lot. A lot of it is, I think, really lines up with what's going on today in our culture, whether it be politics or you name it. Ezekiel 22 verse 30 says, "And I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand the gap before me for the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none." Now, in some translations, this word hedge there is actually translated as a wall. "I looked for a man among them that should make up or build the wall." And it was all about, fixing the culture. Have a wall or a barrier to keep it from being destroyed.
That's
Standing
exactly
the gap.
the book I read, The Harbinger.
Oh,
If you remember parts of that, I mean, you saw the movie, you said, or something. And I gave you the book to read, and it's all about hedges and walls, very interesting book.
yeah.
All about old Israel and how everything repeats itself, how Israel got destroyed and how we're destroying our country now.
Yeah,
Exact thing.
ancient Israel had a wall to protect it. And that was when the Babylonians came and everything. That wall actually withstood the Babylonians for some time, but God, the wall eventually didn't work because God was punishing them. And that would be something to consider too. We don't want to put all of our faith in a wall, though we need a wall. We also have to know that God is our wall and ultimate protector. But the wall is definitely a common sense necessity.
Sooner the better.
Well, it's complete common sense, and we all know why the left doesn't want a wall. And there's a few reasons. One, because the more they let in and the more they hand out welfare and health care to these people, ultimately they want them all to become voters. And they'll keep them in power for the rest of, until the end of our civilization. But the other side of it is that they're globalists, and they don't think any country should have borders. They want us to have open borders, and anyone can come and do whatever they want, and so there goes our culture, there goes our whole foundation of our country, and that's what they want.
Babel. Everybody spoke the same language, and God said, "No more of this."
Right. You just nailed the head on. You just nailed it on the head there. About I think it's for the Democrats more, the liberals. They're globalists, and the globalist Republicans that don't want it. To them, it's more frightening because to allow something like that to happen, because it's a symbol that that's totally against what they believe in.
Right.
They believe in no borders, like you're saying, no borders, no boundaries. And so if you have America now all of a sudden has this wall, and it becomes very symbolic of protecting a culture, our sovereignty, we're separate, that is more dangerous, because that symbol of our wall could catch on and pass to other nations, and now I realize how much more important this wall is after you said that. I mean, I kind of knew that, but you saying it really just kind of... It's a war of symbolism. Yeah. That's what this is all about. It's a war of globalism.
If we build the wall, we're heading the opposite direction of globalism.
Right.
Because we're containing our country and protecting it. But
right.
It's a sad situation that half of our country basically is that far gone. But
and it gets worse and worse. It's not getting better. That's why we got to keep going.
Right. And you know that now we're talking about the wall and how it's a symbol of a symbol of anti-globalism, and which is ultimately Satan's kingdom when we talk about globalism. But it kept out. It was in New Jerusalem's walls were designed to keep out all of the whoremongers, the adulterers, the sorcerers, and all the people that were unrepentant.
Right.
Those people who thought, and you think about it, that whole class of people are all of the other cultures and civilizations that don't want to repent and believe in God. That's them, because they're unrepentant sinners that do not want to reform. They cannot be in God's kingdom.
Exactly. That's what they teach our kids.
Right.
It's the me generation. Me.
Right.
Christian Overcomers is brought to you by the tithes and offerings of our listeners. If you would like to support our ministry, please go to ChristianOvercomers.com. God bless you, and thank you for your support.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching